Call the meeting to order. Sorry.
Just say, want to make sure we've got a
Wait,
connection.
are you running? We're on?
Just want to make sure we got a live
Hello?
feed. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Test.
Like to call the meeting of Harvard Administration Committee to order, 6:30 PM on April 16th, 2025. We have a quorum present, Alderman Carncross, Gorman, Perkins, and myself, Alderwoman Haderlein. Mayor is also present, Deputy Chief Sacco, and our Finance Director, Bejot. Did I say that right? Okay. Okay, so call the meeting to order, did the roll call. Public comment, there's no public here, so we can skip that. And then moving on to item number 4, which would be approving minutes of March 19th, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Perkins, second by Gorman.
Got these as you guys' last meetings.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. Yeah, you should let them make all the motions, so they can get those
Take the
in
blame on the way out.
for the last time, right? Oh my God.
Blame the last guy that left. That's,
Yeah. Carncross.
Yeah, there you go.
So, discussion of and approval of the revised policy for elected officials and staff interactions. Did everybody have a chance to review that?
Yeah, I looked through it for the changes. I mean, it was the changes that we wanted designating between elected and appointed city staff. And
Yeah.
my understanding is that TJ looked it over and that it's ready to go. So
Yep.
if legal counsel has already reviewed it, I don't have anything to add or
Okay.
oppose on it.
Okay. Did Matt and Charlie any questions or comments about
No.
it? Okay.
I think it's good to have it in
Yep.
writing and in a documented policy going forward, especially for new council members, new appointees,
Yeah.
future staff, all that. So
Yeah.
I think it was good to have it.
Okay.
Kind of surprised we didn't.
Yeah, well, we do now,
Yeah.
or we will. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you. Carncross moved. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie. Seconded by Gorman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approved 4-0. Let's see. Item number 6, discussion approval on section 2.05H, electronic attendance at meeting rules ordinance.
The only question that I have on this one is that we are striking out the 48-hour notice, obviously, because it's kind of excessive, like in the case of illness or,
Right.
sudden,
Right.
sudden reason that you can't come in. What do we, I guess, like, obviously you can't be doing it like 2 seconds before the meeting to come in, but I mean, like, what do we
Well,
reasonably
it says
anticipate?
prior to the meeting, unless impractical, so that necessary communication equipment can be arranged. So,
Okay.
so long as we can call you, then I
Okay.
think, that's sufficient from a logistical perspective.
I just wanted to clarify, just for
Right.
public record, that that's what the implied definition
Mhm.
is being interpreted as. So if somebody says, well, what does that mean? It just,
I mean,
prior to the
ideally, I'd like at least an hour notice. We just started,
Yeah.
and as people come in the meeting, when we start the meeting, we
Right.
can let people know that someone plans to attend electronically. But
Right.
yeah, other than that, as long as the ordinances allows us to,
Yeah.
want to make sure we had that clear for anybody looking back, what the interpretation was meant to be.
Right. And this also, this section in parts that aren't being edited also does say the reasons, correct?
Right,
Or-
you still would
yeah.
have to have those reasons. You
Yeah.
couldn't just
Say, hey, I'm
say,
not going to make
yeah, I'm
it.
just not going to make it because, I'm eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not a valid reason.
Yeah. Want to watch American Idol. Yeah. Whatever.
Maybe you're having an allergic reaction to the peanut butter. That
Yeah.
is maybe.
Right.
Who knows? But yes, you need to have valid reasons.
This is also assuming, should the committee move forward with this, is that we would have it as a standing item on the agenda to allow people in electronically.
Okay.
That way it's always notified on the agenda, so if it
Okay.
happens, we have already prepared to allow someone to attend that
Okay.
way. That's
Yeah. That's great. Sounds good.
that's the caveat, I guess, right?
Yes.
Well, because you cannot change the agenda less than 48 hours before a
Right.
meeting.
Yeah,
That's why you have to have it as a standing item.
that's fine. I mean, we've adjusted the
Yeah.
opening of the meeting to have several standing items just
Yeah.
for sake of convenience, and it's worked out really well, so.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything to add? Because I was just going to motion to approve. Okay, motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Dan. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie. Motion by Carncross, second by Gorman. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all opposed? Okay, approved, 4-0, thank you. Let's see. Item number 8.
7.
Oh, sorry. Discussion, item number 7, discussion revision on the McHenry County Grant Project for Rush Creek Bike Path.
This was left on the agenda in the hope that we would have the draft IGA, which we still do not have.
Okay.
So there's nothing to present or discuss at this point.
Thank you.
Back to number 8.
Now, item number 8, discussion action in regard to Chapter 618A2 of the Code Book in regard to any enforcement action. And this is regarding the right-of-way and work being done in the public right-of-way and the city's authority to enforce against folks who may be violating the ordinance. And I believe we all had received a letter from our attorney. Didn't we?
Yeah, we got
Everybody
it.
was sent a copy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody had a chance to read it?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
everybody read it. So
Yeah.
if we need to discuss or go through it, we can.
The only thing I have on this one is there was, of course, you can't go back in time to, because there's no pictures, but there were points where they did dig on the markings from Julie and then becoming strikes. So, and that's what I interpret from what the attorney is saying here is that stuff should be fine then.
Yeah, and so everybody understands more for the public. We reviewed the contract and against the ordinance. The ordinance is chapter 6.18, sorry, 6.18.A.2. Say that very quickly. And what it essentially is that the contract does not preclude us from being able to fine somebody if in this particular case, surf, if they are to construct in the right-of-way improperly. But so far to date, you're correct, Matt, we can't go backward in time. We can go forward. Should a strike happen, that doesn't necessarily say that there's a violation. It would have to be that they would have done the construction initially improperly before we could violate, or before we can issue a violation.
And is Aaron out there more regularly lately with them?
Correct.
So we don't need like Donovan out there or anything because he's community develop.
Yeah, we at this point in time, we don't foresee a need to have staff members out there 24/7 to watch them. They are calling in to have, they're doing the Julie call-ins. We know that because Public Works is going out and doing a lot of the markings as well. So as far as we can tell, they are constructing or doing work based on the ordinance or within the guidelines of the ordinance. And I'm not going to put it out there, but so far don't want to put it out there, but so far there has not been an issue.
Yeah.
Keep in mind too that if they do any damage, even prior, if there has been any damage done to like say houses or property, they have gone back to take care of that. So they've been proactive in that sense.
Okay.
I will say that when they did my neighborhood, I didn't see any abnormal behavior, improper tools or anything because I was home when they were doing it, and I mean, it was all shovels and vehicles were parked in the right places. I mean, they were doing everything, but correctly as I saw it. But that was just my little area of neighborhood, so can't say for every instance.
Yeah. Well, and when they were doing the next block north of me, the 1000 block of Jefferson, there were 4, is it NCIS? I think I've got the letters wrong, but there's
IS is a TV show.
right, I know, but who's the company that,
USC?
Yeah, USC.
Let's see.
okay,
Locate.
yes,
Yes,
the
locate.
locating
Yes.
company, yes. They had 4 cars on Roosevelt observing the crew as they were digging the holes and putting in the lines up that block, and it wasn't until they, probably a couple hours in that where they dunked multiple holes that those 4 vehicles left. So yeah, that was kind of interesting, but that was shortly after we'd had some discussion
Okay.
here.
Ye-
Yeah.
Beyond fines, though, one of the concerns I thought was that the city was incurring costs because of those errors. In other words, or the protection district had costs. Can they in the future be billed for those costs?
That would be something that the Harvard Fire Protection District would have to make a determination.
Well, I understand, but but that's so completely separate that it wouldn't be covered by this at all, right?
Yeah, because they are a separate entity.
Have you discussed that with them at all?
I'm not in that position where I'm at in that place to discuss that kind of things. I'm only a blue shirt there. I don't have any pull.
It is a suggestion that we can make to their board to look into this, if not
Yeah, I
for
mean,
now,
but that was
maybe
the
future.
complaint. That was the complaint, that it was taking up their time.
Well, it
And
is,
yet you
but
feel it's not important to talk to them about it.
that's
Okay, I understand.
That's chiefs and trustees.
I understand.
If
Okay.
it's something that they deem that's a big enough problem, they'll address it, I would assume.
Yeah, but that seems to be the issue to me, is that, there were costs involved because everybody had to be involved.
Right.
I mean, the only cost, I guess, if you want to go with that, Charlie, is with every hit, with how low staffed the fire department is, they're on that call, and then an extra true emergency comes in, like anything EMS, it delays the response time for that.
And there's equipment involved,
Yep,
and there's
and
fuel
that too.
used, and.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, time for people we're paying, yeah, or they're paying. So
I don't think there's really any action to take
don't-
on this
no.
one, just
No.
because it
No,
was
just
just
discussion.
an informational. The way that I read it was that the attorney basically said that it would have to be determined that this was effectively negligence that led to it, and if they could determine that, then a fine or additional action should be taken. But if there was any question about it, whether it was negligence or not, it kind of just is not an issue. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Any other discussion? Well, thanks for pulling this issue up, Matt. It was nice to see that we actually have that in the code.
Mm-hmm.
It's good,
And I
good
think-
to know.
I think it's good for going forward with any utility work for the city as well, just because of the fact that when contracting with somebody or a new entity's coming in or wants to do construction, it's something that can be brought up to their attention
Right.
at first and just say, hey, should there be an incident or any issues, this is how we would move forward. So, at least the city can be proactive on that. So
And
it's
the
good.
the code was pretty complete in terms of
Yeah.
laying out sort of the specs for what they had to do in order to be working in the right of way. So
If I
good to
recall
know.
right, it was actually Charlie that made sure that section 6.18 was actually installed in the agreement as well, to make sure that things were done moving forward.
Thank you, Charlie.
thank you.
Welcome.
Anything further? Okay, item number 9, discussion action for the resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract, purchase of electricity from the lowest cost electricity provider for the purposes of street lighting through the Northern Illinois Municipal Electric Collaborative bid process.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is the same bid process that we do for residents, we
Yeah.
do for city services, and in this particular case, it's for street lighting. So
How come we do it separately for street lighting than the rest of the city surfaces? I would think that would make more sense to do it all in one go for city electric.
don't know the reason.
I'm just curious if there was a historical reason, like maybe it was a deal that we had or a contract passed that timed it that way. I was just kind of like, why would it only be street lights? Why wouldn't we do it with everything in one
right,
go? But I mean, it is
yeah.
just curious.
Not sure why it's grouped that way, but we pay a lot of money in street light electricity. So
Yeah, I remember we were talking about doing the LED conversions and possibly solar panels to offset because the
yes,
cost was
try and
high.
reduce some of the costs. So,
Yeah,
this just allows us to go to the bid process. And if you recall, when it goes out to bid, the bids are usually only good for like a day or two.
Yeah.
So getting pre-authorization to accept the lowest bid is what is being sought here.
my only thing when I was reading this, because it was the streetlights, I was like, maybe in future, if it's something that we can negotiate as part of our, I don't know if that's possible, but when the city's negotiating electrical contract for everything else, if they're, I mean, because we've been combining stuff.
We could ask our representative from NEMEC to see if that's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, see, I don't know if you have to kind of put this contract kind of the same end date as the other one to
That's
be
what I'm
able to do
saying.
it.
If we can, we've consolidated so many contracts and cut costs because we've been able to consolidate under one agreement or whatever. I don't know how power is negotiated down, but if we're doing it under one contract, my thought was if there's a way we can proactively think a year or two down, 3 years down the road and potentially combine it, just my suggestion to think about it.
So
That was
do
all.
we go through NIMAC for our other electricity?
We do.
Municipal?
We do.
Okay,
That's what made me
but the
think of it.
contracts aren't
Yeah.
concurrent, so that's.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah,
But it all predates all of us, right? To
Yeah.
know
right,
how that process started and
Yeah.
can we combine them? But we can make the ask for sure.
yeah, I just figured like I knew we already paid a ton of money for the lights because they're, they use power. We had talked about
I
it for
signed
several.
the checks, I tell you. There's a
Well,
lot,
we-
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and we discussed
Yeah.
it for quite a while.
Yeah.
If we could figure out ways around that.
I think we've saw
so-
some reduction. It'd be nice to get some idea of how much reduction was when we went to LED, but
Yeah.
it's still tens of thousands of dollars a year, so.
Yeah, plus I just figured it was worth checking because when I saw that it was the same when we were looking at potentially the same agreement, I was like, oh,
I had to reread that. I didn't see lighting at first. I'm like, didn't we just go through this?
yeah, that's why I was, because I know we do it all like every year, every couple of years, and I'm like, okay, well, that's what my thought was, is why are we doing this again? But then I read that it was a streetlights, and I'm like, why are we doing this separate? Isn't that the same thing? But
Yeah.
okay.
Are we approving Lou to do this, or are we recommending?
You recommend to council, and it'll go to approval on council.
I make a motion that we recommend to the city council to approve Lou, what is it?
Or the resolution authorizing.
Resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract for the purchase of electricity from the lowest cost electricity provider.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Gorman, second by Carncross. Any additional questions, comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Item number 10, discussion, potential action on police reports. We had talked about this a few months ago and had made the recommendation, which then has been happening, which is great, of including information on the website or the Facebook, I think, police Facebook account for what the police report information is that comes to the council each month. They're knowing that I believe there have been at least a couple of shootings this year. One recently, last month. Was that last month?
Early this month,
Early
right?
this month? Okay.
March 31st.
Yeah,
Oh.
March, okay.
Well, that was
Late last
that was
month.
the was a discharge of firearm within the home, I think, or just outside the home or something like that. I don't remember the details, but
It was a shooting.
Yeah.
Drive-by.
Drive-by.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Investigation's ongoing. I don't
Yeah,
wanna get-
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
just it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, just I
Yeah.
don't remember what it was reported. but
And
it was-
there was people that were arrested,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
What's that?
With that, there was one that was earlier
Oh.
in March. I don't know, of course, that's probably investigation's ongoing because I didn't see anything about arrests. There was one over by Starline area, I don't know what streets, where there was kind of like a shooting and then you see a vehicle drive by. That was like March 10th or 11th. Was there, that you guys got called out to?
To my knowledge, I don't recall we made any arrests on that. I don't recall that being a shooting.
Okay, so it was, the only reason why, because someone showed me the ring footage that you heard the shot, of course, you know, how handguns and everything else can sound the same. So I was just wondering if that was a shooting, because there was no press release on that one.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that incident you're speaking of, that was not a classified shooting. There was no arrest made. That happens more, I don't want to say more often than not, but that happens at times where we get a call for possible shots fired, or it comes through as a possible shots fired, something like that. And then upon arrival, there's nothing to be seen. So that does happen, you know, occasionally. But as far as that particular incident, no, there was nothing.
Okay. Are we gonna expand a little bit more of what we want to see?
Right, yeah, I mean, I'm curious, the information that the council receives each month and that's now being shared with the community isn't, it's pretty,
Just want to,
yeah,
one point,
Go
it's
ahead.
always been shared with the community because it's always been public.
right, right.
Public. We just haven't
exactly.
put it
But
on
yeah, putting it
social
on,
media.
shared with the
Yes.
community on Facebook,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Just want to make clear.
Yes,
it wasn't
thank you,
there.
it wasn't ever hidden, no,
Yes, okay,
no.
thank you.
But it's, how can I put this? It's pretty generic, because it's not, there's no location, information. Not even approximate. It's just somewhere in Harvard, these things happened. And I'm just wondering if it would be if there's a way, an easy way, or if it would be helpful, and how other folks feel, to provide, to give people a sense of where things are happening in the community, so that they're aware. If something's happened in their area, I feel like people should know, and not just rely on hearing it from their neighbors. Like, things like, the shooting, or, some car stolen, whatever.
I mean, usually anything that involves public safety, like immediate public safety, that gets reported almost immediately. I mean, I usually see something usually within a few hours of the event happening, but the only thing that I would say that, I'm okay with the data that's provided. When I started looking through, I was like, okay, this is good information, but not too much information. The thing that I would caution against is, while it is public information, while it is recorded, while it is published in the newspapers and things like that for like arrests and that kind of
No, it's
stuff.
not. It's not published in any newspapers.
It's public information.
Right. It's
But
public information.
it's accessible to the public. What I would caution against is broadcasting, or I'll use the word advertising for a reason, advertising names and specific details of the arrest or whatever the situation is, broadcasting on social media, because there are entities, there are people in this community and outside this community that specifically use that information for nefarious purposes and to push
Right.
very nasty and very harmful agendas based
Agreed.
on cherry picking what information is published. So I would caution that. The second side of that, and that's why I use the word advertising, because it's just advertising it for them to do that. The second thing is that I do feel that in cases where, unless it involves public safety or an immediate issue or something of those nature, like, if your car next door to you is stolen and they have no idea who stole it and there's car thieves around, then I understand. If it's something that doesn't involve it's a nonviolent infraction, I would also advise, just because a person's privacy is still their privacy, and it wouldn't be right to publish that information wantonly in
Well,
social
Dan,
media.
that's why I disagree, because it's not their privacy once you get arrested. It's public knowledge if you go look it up.
That's true, but I'm just cautioning that people are how they are, and broadcasting that can contribute to a very negative experience in the community, because if someone gets arrested for a minor infraction, or even something that that's nonviolent or not serious to
But
the
even
public.
the violent stuff can lead that way too, the way you
Well,
explain
violent thing
it,
is a
'cause
different story.
If you want to go that route, there's national news headlines right now that's making of something of a murder, and that's hitting both places down in Texas. But if you want to go with that, but that's definitely a violent crime that happened. Now, there's two different, the way you're explaining it, I don't want to go off, I don't want to go off from the city part, but I'm trying to give you a point of view about even the bigger ones will eventually can get like that, the way you're saying, which I don't think it should be that way, trust me.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people, well, unfortunately, there's going to be people like that in the society.
Correct. I'm just going, what I'm thinking along the lines, for an example, okay, violent crimes, something that involves public safety or something like that, publish it. If you've got somebody in the community who is a violent offender that could be a danger to the whatever, okay, that's fine. When you've got someone who's arrested for petty shoplifting from Walmart, I don't think their name needs to be broadcast on social media, okay? We don't know the circumstances, and what I'm saying is that type of thing becomes a problem within the public sphere, because that person the court's due process will handle that. We don't need to contribute to them having misery in their life, losing their job or other things, because that's now becoming.
Yeah, but the question here is, should the city of Harvard be in the news business?
Good point. I don't
Okay,
think so.
that's really the question, because the thing of it is that all the things that you say shouldn't be put out can be put out, and all it takes is a FOIA to do it.
Correct.
So but that's what a news business does.
That's what I agree with I agree with how you're saying that. I don't believe that, I believe with publishing the data. I think the data is useful information. I would prefer not to see the city turn into a broadcast news organization.
But what
by
I'm
publishing it.
suggesting isn't necessarily adding in people's names, but if there are, where in the city are, these, thefts or whatever being reported? Are there trends?
Can I have
Yeah.
hold on one second. So going back to what Dan's thing about Walmart theft, you were on city council, was that 3 years ago, Deputy Chief Sacco, or was that 4 years ago? It was around COVID time, we recognized the loss prevention girl at Walmart for all the thefts there and how she was able to help you guys find those people.
That was in 2022.
So yes, and that's when we still get all those releases. Back in 2022 is when we used to get those big releases every
Yeah.
week, and we even recognized someone for
Yeah.
that.
I'm
That's
saying
doing her job.
recognizing the person for assisting the police.
But
is
we
different.
wouldn't have known that if it
Right.
wasn't being posted all the time, because I don't think they would have brought that in as much either, because with that being posted, the public knew that stuff was going on.
Okay.
Yes, the data, yes. The details of each person involved, that's what I'm saying. I'm cool with getting where it's coming from, knowing the neighborhoods or the wards, or if you have specific areas where crime tends to happen more often, but, I mean, is that possible?
I suppose I'm just trying to ascertain what we're trying to talk about here.
Yeah.
Are are locations not shared on press releases that are put out for major incidents? There's a location of the area,
Right, but
1,000
that's
block.
only
or-
if it's pretty major, like a shooting.
Correct. As far as if you're requesting for locations where thefts, minor retail thefts and petty offenses, or, not petty offenses, but retail theft or Class B misdemeanors are occurring, we can certainly accommodate. And we're not against that. However, I'm just trying to figure out where we want to go here.
Right, well, there's a lot of things between petty offenses and major crimes.
Of course.
And, car thefts, assault, which we don't have a lot of, fortunately, but,
Well, even, I guess because there might not be arrests as often, or it might take a while, but, what you do hear somewhat, but not in the press release sometimes, all the time lately, is, and a lot of times it is because people don't lock their doors, but broken in vehicles.
exactly.
It's my understanding, though, that the guidelines that we were given was felony offenses on up were
We actually didn't
broadcasted.
give that one, Lou. We were trying to do that, then you guys, then we asked you, then we direct you guys to give us something, and then what you gave us the next month was just the city council packet thing that we got. And that's all we got, and
Actually, if you go back, you'll realize that we even flat out asked, where's the guideline? We asked
we said, we
everybody here
direct
for
you,
that.
and we said that we direct you guys to do that, and we revisit it, and that's what we're doing right now, is
Right, and
revisiting
and
it.
the determination at the time was felony offense on up, and I believe that's what's being.
I don't think that was a thing, the felony offense, but, I mean, I can listen to the tape recorder and see.
What do you want the threshold to be?
Correct.
That's what. we-
Directly, and I'll be direct on that. Whatever you want us to do, we'll do it.
Right.
And honestly, I do, to a point, back in 2022, I actually do like that. I mean, yes, people in the town are gonna always talk, but at least they know. We talk about transparency in this town every time. The other thing I haven't noticed is, I guess vandalism is no longer, because that used to be reported.
Right.
Is there vandalism still in town going on?
We haven't had a lot of reports for that, Alderman. We really
Okay.
haven't.
I know there was one last week, but
But
Yeah,
I mean,
the data's in the report that we get, the number of cases that are.
But that
reported.
doesn't still work, but it'd still be nice to know, hey, because I would like to know, because
Right.
unfortunately, especially with my job, I'm gone the whole 24 hours, doesn't mean I'm watching my cameras 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally, speaking for me, just wondering if there's a way to provide some information to the community that at least, I don't personally care if it has people's names attached to it, but the crimes and where in town we're responding to different types of crimes.
We can certainly accommodate that. And to add to a point too, if there is a car theft or a car burglary or something suspicious going on, 9 times out of 10, unless it's 6 days later reported, we do a neighborhood canvass. So we're knocking on doors, talking
Yeah.
to
No,
neighbors.
Deputy Chief, I know you guys do that. I
Okay.
think this is more of, and I know you're admin, I think this is more admin directing admin above you of what we want you guys to do.
Well, let me know.
Yes.
Simply put, let me know. We're willing to accommodate whatever.
I would just ask that unless it's deemed necessary, like as a major crimes report or something like that, or a violent crime, I would ask that names and personal information be redacted
Yeah.
from the report, because I don't think that that's necessary, and I would piggyback off of Charlie's wording.
Yeah.
So we're not in the news business. It's
Yeah.
it's public information if people want to seek it out, but I don't think we need to broadcast it, especially with the environment, the way things are. People will use that information for the wrong purposes, and it's becoming a situation where we could be contributing to a dangerous situation.
Right, and I understand, and that's not at all what I would, but I just think it would be helpful, useful information for the community to know where these different types of crimes are taking place in the community.
Yeah.
Um,
We're seeing a lot of
Sounds
broken
like
car.
Sounds like a business opportunity to me. Somebody could actually do that and make money.
How?
Start a neighborhood little newspaper with a web address and so on, and turn in your FOIAs and find out what's going on and publish it.
Well, when there was a newspaper in town, it didn't make money.
Well, things are different now. I mean, there's other ways to do it for a lot less money than there used to be.
I do agree. I mean, if we're seeing, for example, a bunch of car break-ins that are fairly consistent at one of the apartment complexes or something
Yeah.
like that, then yeah, I think that's probably good, because it's going to show the public, hey, like, there's been 3 car break-ins in this neighborhood in a month. Lock your cars up. Keep
Yeah.
an eye out, so I think that's helpful, and I do think the police department's done a great job
Yeah,
of communicating
absolutely.
more on the Facebook page, and, like, when you've got somebody that smashes up one of the car washes with their plow, and they're looking for the vehicle, or somebody does something, and hey, we're looking for this person. You guys have done a great job with that, and I think that helps, and I think that's more than adequate for what this town needs.
So do we have a consensus or no?
Consensus of adding a little bit more of
Yeah.
what to be put out in press releases, but I guess, have a little bit more than just
Right,
violent crimes, but
More-
more of like, hey, these thefts, and not, I guess, to have the names, if people really want to
right.
FOIA that,
But
they want to find out
where are these
themselves.
things, where
But at
in
least
town
where
are
they're
these
at
things happening?
and what-
Yeah, so that people are aware.
If I may on this, sometimes there's details of a certain investigation or a certain case or something that happens that we don't necessarily want to release at that point in
Right.
time.
Absolutely,
Sometimes
Definitely.
it's sensitive, sometimes some of those things are timing is everything.
yeah.
So it might be difficult to set that threshold.
I'm going back, Deputy Chief, back to, I guess, two and a half years ago when it was almost weekly, you guys sent something out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the last 2 years, I can count on my fingers, last time I saw a press release on you guys' Facebook,
Right.
of stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's,
And I don't know who directed that to you guys, but it used to be more.
I would say that in any situation, whatever this council or administration directs, it would be at the better judgment of chief and deputy chief as far as whether that information is safe and logical to release at that time.
And I think I'm pretty sure they know when to release it, because I'm sure with those press releases, we didn't know, because there's some that you would see 2 months later, or like a couple weeks later, because
Exactly,
they knew that the investigation was done.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to put the chief or deputy chief in a position where they would have to ask, like,
Well,
they can just use their
exactly, but, I
judgment
mean,
and feel comfortable.
This is Matt's point, you know, that at
They
least
had-
the way
they were
I'm
able to
hearing it,
use
they
the
were
judgment
doing it.
2.5 years ago, the
Yeah,
judgment.
they were doing it when Chief
I know.
Kraus was
Even when
chief.
Bauman
Yeah,
became chief, they were still putting it out there.
and, yeah, because Tyson did all of those when he was the deputy. And then they stopped, and so is there a way, you know, I know it can be done, I know the information is available, but just don't have to include the names of the people, but the geography. Where are the police responding to things?
So the
in the
reason,
community?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, the reason we had stopped doing those was coming from the top with Mr. Mayor. We had stopped doing those unless it was a major event, something major that kicked off, something that's to my knowledge. If we can continue to do, we can bring those back if you wish, and leave names out. We just simply want to know what you want on those.
I'm good with that, if you guys are.
I'm good with that. Like I said, I just would, unless it's necessary, I would just redact the identifying information, just.
Unless it's the, I guess, felony type.
Yeah, unless it's a major
Right.
incident or,
Right,
you know,
like the drive-by. and-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
major
was-
incidents,
yeah.
or if the person's not from town and it's it's something like that, like if they're identifying somebody
No, if
from
it's a
outside-
major thing and they're from town,
Yeah, well, I mean,
their
if
name
it's-
should still be in there,
Correct,
Dan.
correct, but if you want to identify where the person's from, I think that's fine too, like in a lot of cases, we see people come to town and start something. So if they're a resident of Walworth, they're not a resident of Harvard, that's fine.
How about this, chief, or deputy chief? Let's say auto theft, male, 36, 1,000 block of O'Brien Street.
Sergeant Friday,
Pardon me?
Sergeant Friday, like,
Well, I mean, what you're asking for is
Yeah,
the crime, the location,
yeah,
and a person. So instead of giving a name, we could identify male, female, age, and the incident,
and location.
and the
Yeah,
approximate location.
How often would you like these? Is this something that you want, like a weekly report? As they come in? Because typically, and I'll tell you, if we have an issue with, for example, car burglaries, if we have a string of these in a certain area,
Yeah.
we'll put something out. I mean,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong on that. We've done that. We've notified people. We've made major, even lesser than major incidents where we don't really know what's going on. The situation is developing. Personally, I've utilized code red. Hey, avoid the 1,000 block of such and such. So as things develop and as
Yeah.
things pop up, we do put those out. More than happy to accommodate.
yeah.
And if we want us to put out as these things come in, as these reports come in, if it's something where, like a citizens awareness type of thing, we can certainly do that.
Yeah.
We can include the description of the alleged offender, date, time, and approximate location, 1,000 block of whatever. We can
Right.
certainly do something like that.
And unless it's, like you said, that's something that they should know within that, like, you know, when it's happening type thing. Maybe weekly was a little bit too much, so bi-weekly.
I won't be on the council, but I mean, I would be fine with the monthly report going through the city council meeting. I mean, for me, that made sense.
Yeah.
It was fine. Because I also don't, my thought is too, is taking the time, having somebody sit down, type this up,
Well,
whatever, if they're already
I
building
have
the
stated
report.
in previous meetings that this came down from me.
Yeah.
And stated that the amount of time, late man hours, to collate all this information was more than it was worth of creating these reports that we were doing. And so the compromise, let's report the major crimes, because those do need to be reported. I think if you're gonna do it monthly, we could just adjust the monthly report from the chief to include that information.
That
mean,
would,
it's
that would make
that
sense to
simple.
me, and then if
Yeah.
if the future council deems that they want that information more often, I think then they can ask for it, but I think once a month is.
I guess my question to the deputy chief, because he would understand, with you guys' new reporting system, the feds kicked off like, what was it, a couple years ago? Doesn't that, can't you just you can't copy and paste some of that stuff to make these reports, these old press releases? You can't grab and quick copy or not copy and paste, but run a report to do that? I mean,
Well, without getting into the details too much with it, but, how I do this, because I do final report review. NIBRS is what you're referring to.
yes.
It reports UCR and everything. I approve or deny reports on that platform, and then I open an Excel sheet that I've created, and I have everything listed, report number, case disposition, everything. From that Excel sheet, there's a separate back page that charts everything from offenses, dates, times, and it gives us what we have to help us submit the monthly report.
So you're able, with that, you can adjust your Excel to add that, so you can hit a button, formula to populate that. So you're
Yeah.
not copy and pasting or retyping.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
as far as that kind of stuff goes, yeah, we can
I'm
certainly
just
do that.
making sure, so it's not that much harder to do.
Correct, we just want to know what you
Okay.
want.
Okay. Yeah,
That's all.
yeah, thank you. No, that sounds like a good way to go. And monthly is great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So the adjustments to be made on that, we want to include everything?
Well, yeah, we don't need names.
Okay.
But, yeah, basic description and location.
I think he's asking what offense threshold do you
Oh.
want? That's what he's asking. And do you want calls for service? Do there's,
We can do something, we can exclude traffic offenses unless it's,
Okay.
something,
Unless it's a,
like DUI crash or
yeah,
something to that
and
matter.
they're felony type, yeah.
But we can exclude minor traffic offenses, obviously,
Yeah.
it's driving
Yeah.
while suspended or
that
revoked.
would make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly,
If you knew how many people we pull over for invalid driver's license, it would
right,
drive you bonkers. So,
yeah,
Yeah, exclude that.
yeah. The petty, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it petty, but.
But,
but
yeah,
it's-
I don't
it's
know
not a-
what
it's
the
not a-
right term is.
It's not a huge victim crime, right? So
Right, right.
it's an infraction, not a.
Yeah,
criminal.
exactly. Yeah, like when I
Minor
got
drug
pulled over
possession.
because my license plate was 8 months unrenewed.
Well, that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
That is pretty serious.
Unless it's during
Yeah.
COVID, and you had ones that were 2 or 3 years over.
Yeah,
It happens. I tell you.
I
It
gotta
does,
pay
it
mine for
happens,
this
yeah.
$500.
yeah, Officer C was very nice,
He is very nice.
but said, I'm gonna have to give you a ticket for this because this isn't just a couple months. This is most of a year. And please don't wait until January to just renew it for next year. Yeah, it was pretty funny, actually.
So we got
I
a
had no idea.
direction, right, to staff?
Yes.
You guys understand?
Does it make
Need any
sense?
more?
Are we,
I think
Clear
we're
enough?
okay.
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 Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, anything else on item number 10? Nope. Strategic vision, are there any lingering strategic vision issues that Charlie and Dan really want us to talk about at their last admin committee meeting?
The only thing I can say is that I'm congratulations to go on a strategic vision. The strategic vision should be continuing since our mayor has been reelected. I don't expect that to change, but it's a vision, it's strategic, and we did a good job putting it together. So I anticipate seeing it continue as we designed it. So that's our legacy, Charlie. That's our legacy, Charlie.
Yeah. My vision has become less and less strategic.
shift to tactical, have you?
I guess my strategic vision would be to have Charlie come back for the audio and everything,
Oh, jeez.
since you always talk
No, that's
about
more
it.
work than that.
I know, but he always talked about it.
That's more work than being on the city council. So I don't know. I think the strategic vision is kind of in place. And obviously there'll be changes as soon as the city council changes, which is how it should be. So I have no problems whatsoever. But I don't think there's a lot of point in us talking about it at this meeting because these aren't the right people.
Out of here.
So,
Oh,
and,
Lights out on
and
you,
now,
Charlie.
and
Yeah.
now,
Guess that's a sign.
now the system can't even see us, so it shuts off the lights.
That knows exactly the motion.
But, yeah, I think we should just probably, and I don't think we're gonna have a lot of new business, are we? Let's see. New business, I mean, I'm
Today?
doing her job, but I'm starting
Okay,
I
well, I was
apologize.
letting you chat on strategic vision, Charlie. So done with strategic vision. Item number 12, new business. Any new business?
So I've received a draft agreement earlier today regarding a wireless provider coming in. There was one issue in the rental that I wanted to get straightened out. I'm hoping to have this ready to go for a council meeting on Tuesday. It'll essentially, this would be a new wireless provider coming in at $2,500 a month over the next 20 years with escalations in there. So that would be.
So is
a-
this a tower?
Just to be clear, yes, it wires a provider to use our tower.
Use our tower.
Actually, it'd be the
Okay.
installation of an
Of
antenna.
of a new antenna. I'm
This
sorry.
is the one that we talked about in community development that was over by the salt shed.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so what this will do is, this is another revenue stream for the city of about $30,000 a year, starting out first year.
Just to clarify, since Matt and, well, none of you guys were at the meeting, the placement, this tower would be, I think, what was it, 200 feet?
It's, the height will be 200 feet,
200 feet. So,
Thank you.
and the location right now is tentatively to be behind the old salt shed.
so this would, when we were talking about it in the meeting, the smokestack off of the Star Line is 200 feet. So it will not exceed the height of the smokestack. So it's the same,
Okay.
so it's not going to be an eyesore. We're not putting it on top of a water tower, but it's in an area that is not heavily occupied.
So where was the old salt shed?
I'm going to pull it up.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Right now, the old salt shed is just a campground for police, or old
Murder
impounded
cars.
vehicles.
Murder cars.
What?
They were the murder cars.
Cars where a
Oh,
death
the
has
ones that
occurred.
we can't get
The
rid
ones
of
we can't
because
get rid of
they're
forever,
related
correct.
to, yeah, right.
Yeah, so we have to, we have
Sorry.
to,
Just,
No, it's,
we have to
yeah,
maintain that evidence in perpetuity for
Yep.
anything that was involved in a homicide.
Yep.
So if you see here, here's the Star Line, here's the tracks. This building is the salt shed. I think this is, Hutchinson Street. So the salt shed is here. Here are all those vehicles that have been back here for rotting for years. There's a ComEd substation here, so we're looking at putting it on the back of this property. This
There's no
property,
issue with the substation, I guess, with the right of way?
no,
No, actually, that was one of the things they were looking forward to.
because they have immediate power right next door. And it's an industrial area, and the tower that he was mentioning about, the smokestack is right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be the same height,
So basically,
okay.
Almost no one's really going to be able to see all this. Anything from over here is going to be blocked by these grain towers. It's an industrial area, so it makes
Right.
sense to put it there.
we recommended it to city council. That's why I was just kind of giving you guys a little bit of information, because then you're not like going, well, what's going on? We went through all of this, we all felt comfortable that this is a good place that it's good land to use for that, considering it's just rotting cars. So I was like, let's make some money off of it.
Did your committee approve it and
We approved it, we
to
approved.
take it to the city council?
No, so what happened, there's a building code that needs to be updated. That's what went to community development. This would be a contract that normally would come through this committee and then go on to council, but for timing's sake, I'd like to try to get this done and off my plate. And again, I just received this today. So
So it should be Tuesday then.
So,
next Tuesday.
yeah, I'd like to put this on the agenda for council meeting Tuesday night.
I have no objection.
That sounds good.
And that's provided that we get the annual increase straightened out in the meantime. So, but with that, that'll, normally what happens, we have an existing contract with T-Mobile over one of our towers, and the funds that are raised through that goes right back into public utilities to offset, expenditures there. This would be new ground. The antenna is not something that's going to put strain on any of our current infrastructure. The added bonus to it is that salt shed very rarely, because it is more or less a boneyard, very rarely gets weed whacked. With the tower there, they're going to have to go in and make sure it's clear of debris. So it's also kind of beautifying the area for a little bit. Yeah, and so there was multiple birds with one stone on this one. The question will be, and the suggestion that I'm making out of this is that the $2,500 be cut up and sent over to a portion over to Parks and a portion head over to Economic Development to help out with those two departments to get better funded. And it takes the strain off the taxpayer in this sense, or some strain off the taxpayer.
Is that gonna be discussed on Tuesday about that?
The contract's going to be discussed. I'm just making the recommendation on the funding. That can be determined at another time.
That'll be later, okay. Just making
Yeah, I
sure.
would think that the funding would probably go into the next budget cycle, because I don't think it's not like the income's not gonna be for a little while until they build it.
Probably not for another 8 months.
Yeah, so you guys will get a chance to hash it out.
Sounds good.
Will my cell phone work better?
Depends if you have that service.
Who's it
Depends
with?
if you have that service.
I will say, when the T-Mobile tower, when they were doing with that, my T-Mobile service didn't get any better, and we were right underneath it. So it's yeah, it was too close to it.
So who is this one? Who? What company?
Are we able to say or no?
Or is it going
I-
to help my consumer cellular?
I'd feel better mentioning it more
Okay.
Tuesday night, because then by then everything's solidified.
That's fair.
The nice thing though is it is not T-Mobile. In that, the reason I bring that up is that T-Mobile now, after seeing this, wants to negotiate their renewal, and we're in a position to get some perks out of it. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Man,
Any other
one
new
one
business?
person goes to the buffet, and everybody wants to go
Yeah.
see what's new.
So Dan and Charlie, any new business? No.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.